Hey, it is 12 noon on Wednesday, which means it's time for this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. I'm John Corismo, and the show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. And every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time, we come to our current students, our past students, as well as our future students, which may be you. If you're not a student of us already, don't worry. You're probably going to be a future student of us if you're tuning into these videos. So feel free to tune in, ask questions. Today, we're talking about keeping your advertising compliant, which might not be the most exciting topic. You might be excited to learn about how to advertise and how to make effective ads, but it is important to know how to keep your ads legal, how to not get in trouble from the ads it is that you're running. But don't worry, we'll also go over a couple examples of some good ads you could try to run, some good ad strategies as well. So I'm really excited for this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. I'm John Corismo. You're watching Ask the Instructor.
You are watching
Ask the Instructor every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time. I'm John Corismo. Oh, you're watching Ask the Instructor. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. I'm John Corismo, and this show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. Every Wednesday, 12 noon Eastern Time, we come to you live to talk about technical real estate topics that are usually originating from questions that are asked by our students, whether it's in the classroom courses, the online courses, our past students, people that have been studying for the exam. We get all these questions, and one of them that we had this last week, a couple of them actually, kind of focused around the advertising aspect. And now, not only is this an important concept that you do learn about in your pre-licensing course, so we're going to talk about those fundamentals that are covered in the pre-licensing course. So in case you haven't talked about that or learned about that yet, you will learn about that in your pre-licensing course. It's a big section of the course as far as it goes for the exam, so definitely is important for your exam. But this is one of those topics that's not only important for the exam, but also important for the real world. Now, ultimately, what's probably more important that you come up with effective advertising, but if your advertising isn't compliant, it really doesn't matter how effective it is because that'll eventually catch up with you, maybe get you in trouble with the FREC, and maybe even potentially get you in jail. So let's talk about why you want to have compliant advertising first and foremost. So false advertising. False advertising is a second-degree misdemeanor, which doesn't sound like a whole lot. A second-degree misdemeanor, you know, it's not a felony, it's not even a first-degree misdemeanor, it's only a second-degree misdemeanor, but this is still a criminal violation for false advertising. This isn't even discipline from the Florida Real Estate Commission. This is how you could end up potentially in jail. Yes, that's right, you could go to jail for false advertising. You could go to jail for up to 60 days. So that's the penalty for a second-degree misdemeanor, up to 60 days in jail or up to a $500 fine. I'd much rather have the $500 fine than go to jail for 60 days, but either way, you could potentially end up with a criminal record for false advertising. So we want to avoid that. That's kind of the important part, and the reason why not only is this taught in the course, but something important for the real world, because I don't know about you, but I don't want to end up potentially going to jail. But it's really easy to avoid that as long as you don't do any sort of false advertising. Now, when you are advertising, we'll talk about the differences between misrepresentation and something called puffing. So misrepresentation and puffing often get confused with each other. Misrepresentation is something that could end up being false advertising, that second-degree misdemeanor, having you go to jail for 60 days or getting that $500 fine. So misrepresentation is any time it is that you lie about something, or you're lying about something, or leaving out some sort of relevant material fact. So let's say you're running an advertisement and you're saying a property has 4 bedrooms versus 3 bedrooms. It might not seem like a major difference, but that, my friend, is false advertising. And maybe you don't go to jail for 60 days because of that. I mean, that's going to be really up to the judge, but that's ultimately what could happen for advertising 4 bedrooms instead of 3 bedrooms. Now, maybe this is an honest mistake. You get a good attorney and they could prove that that's an honest mistake, and that maybe hopefully gets dismissed. I'm not giving you legal advice. If you're in legal trouble regarding advertising, contact an attorney and don't listen to anything it is that I'm saying. But if for just general knowledge to kind of help avoid this type of stuff, really make sure any advertising it is that you're putting out is accurate. Because you might not end up getting in trouble for this being a second-degree misdemeanor of this false advertising, but you're going to basically show that you're not careful. You're not using skill, care, and diligence. Another topic we talked about in the pre-licensing course. One of your duties you typically have in most real estate transactions, depending on your brokerage relationship, is using skill, care, and diligence. And if you're advertising something incorrectly, that's not using skill, care, and diligence, which also is another legal obligation that you want to try to avoid. But it's also going to make you look like you don't know what you're talking about to your customers. It's going to make you look unprofessional. So, and it's just like I said, that simple little difference of just misquoting something. And who knows, maybe it is an honest mistake. Maybe you had incorrect information that was given to you. Maybe there's all kinds of defenses for that. But this is something in general, legal or not, you want to try to avoid any sort of inaccuracies in your advertisements. And where you're most likely to get in the most trouble for this is where you're blatantly going out of your way to do some sort of false advertising. When you're advertising something that isn't really true whatsoever. And this goes on everywhere. That you see false advertising all over the place, especially with these shady little signs that you see on the side of the road. 4-bedroom, 3-bath, house for sale, cash only. Most of the time, those people aren't even selling anything. They're just trying to get leads of cash buyers, and they don't have any property to actually sell. So, that's kind of, a lot of this falls into the gray area. And what it is that we're going to be talking about today is just kind of these key points it is that you want to keep in mind. And you've got to make your interpretation of this as well, so you understand, based on your specific scenario, is this maybe a misrepresentation? Are we really lying about something? Or maybe is this just puffing? So I want to talk about that word real quick, puffing. Because puffing is not necessarily false advertising. You're not necessarily lying about something when you say puffing. And usually, so puffing is basically boasting. That's essentially what that's another word for, is boasting. Or exaggerating a little bit. You might say that a property has an amazing water view when in fact it does have a water view, but now whether or not it's amazing, that's more of a matter of opinion. Maybe it's amazing that you could see the water, and that's why we're calling it an amazing view, but maybe that water is, this big, and we're like, yeah, there's the water, there's that water view. You can kind of see it right here. You got to kind of just look out the window here, put your face right on the window and look out, yeah, there's your water view. So, that's where something maybe runs into kind of boasting. If you say something like a property is spacious, that's also not something that's maybe going to get you in trouble for false advertising, because saying that it's spacious, again, this is more of a matter of opinion. Now, notice how it was different than what we talked about at the beginning. When we're talking about misrepresentations, where you're essentially lying about something, is where you're saying 4 bedrooms instead of 3 bedrooms. Which even that could fall potentially into this puffing, boasting type of thing if there is in fact a 4th room that's being used potentially as a bedroom, but maybe where that might fall more along the lines of false advertising, of a misrepresentation, is if It is maybe, let's say there's no door on this bedroom, and there's no closet in this bedroom, and there's no window in this bedroom. Those are usually the things that you'll see in some sort of bedroom. There's a door, there's a closet, there's a window. If it's got those three things, you could absolutely call that a bedroom. But if it's missing those, maybe it has no door on it, that's iffy as to whether or not that's going to be a bedroom. But if there's no fourth room at all, that's where that's a misrepresentation. So that's where you want to know the difference. This is something that, now falling onto that side of giving accurate and non-misleading advertising that makes people trust in you. That's where you want to be careful with this, especially if you say a property is spacious when it's anything but spacious. But again, that definition of spacious is not specific. That's really what you've got to ask yourself when you're trying to figure out, is this something that is a misrepresentation, or am I just exaggerating? Am I just boasting? Am I just puffing is the legal term for that. Because if you're kind of exaggerating about it, and again, there's no specific definition for whatever attribute it is that you're advertising, that's where it's likely to be puffing. The bedroom, depending on who you talk to, there's kind of that definition of it where I say, the door, the window, and the closet. That's my definition of what something would be for a bedroom. But depending on who you talk to, somebody might say, bedroom is just a room it is that I sleep in, doesn't have to have a closet, I've got a rolling wardrobe. It depends on your market too. Think of maybe like more urban areas, especially like an area like maybe New York City or something like that, where the floor plans are very small, and something like that would probably pass as a bedroom. But again, this depends. There's no specific definition for something like that. So that's where that's maybe falling more lines of puffing and boasting as opposed to a misrepresentation. If you say the property has a second kitchen when it only has one kitchen and there's no other way you could look at anything else as a kitchen, that would be a misrepresentation. But if you say it has a spacious kitchen, a beautiful kitchen, an updated kitchen, these are all maybe puffing or boasting if it's not lining up with whatever that person's opinion is of spacious or updated or large or whatever that may be. So that's where you want to be careful about these things. You want to ask yourself, is what I'm saying, is this something that has a specific definition to it? Is that word updated having a specific definition? Well, updated basically means that this has been updated over the past certain period of time, maybe within the past year, maybe the last couple of years. It looks kind of new. That could be considered updated. I've seen properties that have been advertised as updated, and I'm like, well, when did they update this? 1989, which maybe it was updated then, maybe not so updated now. So again, that's where you're falling in the lines of puffing and boasting. And this is where, you have the most opportunity to be kind of creative with what it is that you're saying, to really kind of be descriptive. That's usually where we're talking about the puffing and boasting stuff, is where you're being more descriptive about a property, whereas the stuff that'll get you in trouble for false advertising is advertising something that isn't true. And that could potentially result in fraud, which is much worse than misrepresentation and whatnot, especially with civil lawsuits. So then that's kind of the key things there that you want to keep in mind. Now, whenever it is that you're doing some sort of real estate advertisement, so first and foremost, and going back to those little roadside, the bandit signs they call them, those little corrugated plastic signs that people stick out on the side of the road. So if you're putting out an advertisement for a property it is that you own, and I want to be very clear about this because this is actually what the law says, and there's a lot of violations of the law going out there with that. So if you're doing this, just be aware that you're potentially breaking the law. If you don't have an active real estate license, you could only advertise properties it is that you own. If you're advertising properties it is that you do not own, that's practicing real estate. Advertising is considered a real estate service. It's viewed under the law as a service of real estate, and to perform these services of real estate, you need to have an active real estate license. So if you do own a 4-bedroom, 2-bath house or something like that you're advertising for sale, that's fine. You can put out those little signs for that. But when you're putting out signs to try to lure in some people that are looking to buy cash so you could flip a contract and all that type of stuff, that's where you may not get in trouble. But if it gets caught up to you, that's where you get in trouble for unlicensed practice of real estate, which is a much severe penalty, because false advertising, that's just the 60 days in jail. I say that, just 60 days in jail. I don't want to spend 1 day in jail, let alone 60 days. But unlicensed practice of real estate could actually get you up to 5 years in jail. It's a 3rd-degree felony. You would have a felony on your record. So if you're doing something like that, my advice, just stop that. Go get your real estate license. Then you could do that completely legally. You could advertise other properties that are not owned by you for sale without actually breaking the law. Always consult your attorney on all this stuff if you are out there, breaking the law or anything like that. I'm not an attorney. I'm not offering legal advice here. But as a person talking to you, don't do that. Just stop that, because advertising is a real estate service, and you do need an active real estate license to perform that service of advertising. Now, whenever it is that you are advertising as a real estate service, there's some particular things it is that you always need to have in every single advertisement. And I'm not just talking about a sign you stick out on the side of the road or in front of a house or a billboard or anything like that. I'm talking about when you have a website. I'm talking about when you have a business card. I'm talking about if you're sending out a pen. If you've got a pen with your name and your logo that will help you sell your house or something like that, that pen is considered an advertisement. A cup, any of these little promotional materials, those are all considered advertisement, and they have to follow these rules. And so we're going to get into those rules, but first we're going to take a quick commercial break, so stick with us. I'm John Chrismo. You're watching Ask the Instructor.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com. Does your current career allow for unlimited income potential? With a career in real estate, the sky is the limit. What you put in is what you get out. Find out more about how you can tap into the unlimited income potential of a career in real estate at tampaschool.com.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
Ask the Instructor. Every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time. I'm John Chrismo. You're watching Ask the Instructor. Hey, what's going on? Welcome back to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. I'm John Chrismo, and the show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. And before we get back into advertising and making sure your advertising doesn't land you in jail or at least being disciplined by the Florida Real Estate Commission, I want to give some shout outs to everyone tuning in. So thanks for tuning in. Liz, Logan, what's up? Jim, Cloud as well. Thank you guys for tuning in. Some regular viewers on there, so welcome back to the show. And if you guys have any questions on any of this stuff, I know sometimes this stuff gets a little bit dense, and I get a little fast with this stuff sometimes, especially when I start getting excited about what I'm talking about. But if there's anything, you have questions about anything you're not sure about, stick that in the comments. We're not going to judge you based on your question. No question is a bad question. We're here to help you. We're here to help you understand, and that's what we do at Tampa School of Real Estate. We're here to help you understand this information. A lot of what I've already talked about today is taught in the pre-licensing course, so you learn about this, because the Florida Real Estate Commission, these are the people that are in charge of the real estate industry in Florida. They decide what's taught in the pre-licensing course. They emphasize certain topics and certain sections of what needs to be taught heavily because it's going to be tested heavily. So the reason why they'll emphasize certain things such as advertising, or another big one is escrow money and contracts and mortgages, is when there's a lot of fraud, when there's a lot of problem, when there's a lot of unethical practices regarding these certain areas. That's where the need for legislation is required. And that's where the FREC says, okay, if you want to get a real estate license, you've got to prove you know what you're talking about when it comes to advertising, so you're not going to do an advertisement that's going to hurt the public, that's going to harm the public. So that's what a lot of these rules are set out to do, and this is not only something you'll see in the course, but something extremely likely to see on both your class and state exams, and something you got to keep in mind every day whenever it is that you're sticking your name on any sort of advertisement. So when you're putting these ads out, a few things it is that you've got to keep in mind that we're going to talk about. So number one, again, when you're advertising property for sale, now if this is your property, it's property it is that you own, you're allowed to advertise that for sale without having a real estate license. That's why for sale by owner exists. You're not required to be represented in any capacity to offer a property up for sale. So you could sell your property, you could advertise your property as long as it is your property. Now, if it's not your property, advertising that property is a real estate service. So you need an active real estate license to advertise that property for sale. And if you do have an active real estate license, that's checkbox number 1 to even have that seat at the table to be able to advertise, is have an active real estate license. Here's a couple of the rules. That really the one rule that you always need to keep in mind whenever you're doing any sort of advertising, and that's number 1, including the name of the brokerage. So anytime you create any sort of real estate advertisement for a property that's not owned by you, you have to include the name of the brokerage in your advertisement. If you do not include the name of your brokerage in the advertisement, this is what's known as a blind advertisement. So a blind advertisement is, let's say we run this ad. Let's say we run an ad that says 4-bedroom, 3-bath house for sale, call John, 813-928-0106. You'd end up calling Tampa School of Real Estate because that's the number there. It's subliminal stuff we've got going on here. But anyways, so we put out the ad, 4-bedroom, 3-bath house for sale, $200,000, call John, 813-928-0106. Now, the basic assumption, and this might not be what it is that you think, and this your judgment kind of gets biased here because you're watching me, the instructor, so you know I'm in real estate. But if you just see a classified ad, let's say in the newspaper, or you see a Craigslist ad online that says 4-bedroom, 3-bath house, $200,000, call John, 813-928-0106. That's a blind advertisement. The basic assumption is when you see that ad as a member of the general public, that you're thinking that John, advertising this property for sale, is the homeowner. That John owns it, maybe not a homeowner, maybe an investment property owner, but the assumption is that John is the owner of the property. And that ad, again, in case you missed it, was 4-bedroom, 3-bath house, $200,000, call John, and then the phone number. That ad there, just that basic information, that would be considered a blind advertisement if I'm not the owner. Now, if I am the owner, I'm able to advertise something like that. I don't need a real estate license to advertise something like that. But when I don't own the property, what I'm doing is I'm brokering a sale. That's what brokering refers to. A lot of people, when they hear that word broker, they think of the person with a broker's license or a brokerage. They'll think of a brokerage office, a place where sales get done at, where people have their licenses at. But that term broker means to broker a sale. It's really more of a verb than it is a noun. Though the common way it is that we think about it, especially even in the real estate industry, is you're thinking of this as a noun, as a place, as a person, as a thing. But it's actually a verb because brokering is bringing together buyers and sellers. That's what brokering is defined as, the process of bringing together buyers and sellers. It could also be owners and renters if you're dealing on the leasing side of things. But if we're dealing with sales, bringing together owners and renters. So if I'm running that ad as a real estate licensee, 4-bedroom, 3-bath house, $200,000, call John, 813-928-0106, I'm making no distinction that there's a brokerage involved. So the number one rule in any real estate advertisement, and this rule you could never get away from, the only way you can get away from this is if you own the property, then you're able to advertise it personally rather than advertising it as a real estate service. You have to include the name of your brokerage. So for example, I would do something like 4-bedroom, 3-bath house, $200,000, ABC Realty, and the phone number. Now, you might have noticed when I read that off to you that second time around, that would be a compliant ad, but I dropped my name. So the only thing that's required is the name of the brokerage. If I just wanted to put out an ad that said ABC Realty, I could put out an ad in the paper online that says ABC Realty, and that's all I have to put. Whenever you're, again, doing any sort of real estate advertising, the one requirement you always have to have at a minimum is the name of the brokerage. The only time you can't do that, you don't have to do that, is if it's your property. Now, you can still put the name of the brokerage in there, but if it's your property, that's where you'd have an exemption because you actually own it. But anytime you don't own the property, name of the brokerage always has to go in there. Otherwise, that's considered a blind advertisement. Now, another rule it is to keep in mind with this here is if we do decide to put our names in there, we are allowed to put our names in there, even as a sales associate or a broker associate. You don't have to be the broker to put a name in an advertisement. Now, another thing here is the broker does have the final say in any sort of advertisement you put out, because not only can you as a sales associate get in trouble for this, but your broker could also get in trouble for any advertising that you're doing, because they're that filter that's there to look at all this advertising. Now, a lot of brokers, they just let their agents run wild and free with the advertising, and most of the time people don't get in trouble for advertising, even when they're breaking the rules. But they can. It's not to say that they won't. They're just getting lucky that they're not getting in trouble for this advertising. And it is the broker's responsibility for any advertisements that go out, whether it's advertisements of the broker themselves or advertisements of their agents. And that's there, again, to protect the public. That's the reason why that rule exists, to make sure that the public isn't harmed by the advertisements and what it is that you're putting out. But let's say we did want to include our name. So if we do want to include our name, and again, that's even as a sales associate, broker associate, or the broker, if you want to put your name in the ad, you can, but it is optional. You're not required to put your name in the ad. But if you do choose to put your name in the ad, you must include last name. And it's the last name that you have on your license. So maybe if you're recently married and your last name has changed, or for whatever reason you've changed your last name, or you've changed any part of your name, the name in your advertisement has to be the name on your license. So what that means is if I put out that ad that was 4-bedroom, 3-bath house, $200,000, ABC Realty, so we're not a blind advertisement, but if I just said call John, and then I put the phone number in there, that would be still considered a violation, a direct violation of FREC rules, because this is a specific rule here. That all these that we're going through here are all specific rules. The name of the brokerage, that's a specific rule, otherwise it's blind advertising. You don't include your last name in your advertisement, that's also a specific rule by the Florida Real Estate Commission. You're likely to get in trouble for something like that, because the law specifically says that you have to include your last name. And the reason why, there's no requirement to put your license number in there. So license number isn't required. Now, certain professions, like maybe mortgage lending or otherwise, you might see where people include their license number in a business card or whatever it is that they're advertising. And in certain industries, certain professions, that is a requirement of that licensing body. But for real estate licenses, for sales associates, and for brokers advertising real estate services, there's no requirement to include your license number in the advertisement. And maybe that's not to say that you can't. You could still include your license number in there if you want, but you're not required to. So again, that's up to you. That's optional if you want to put that in there, but there's nothing saying that you have to include that advertisement in there. And there's that one school of thought that people will see a license number, they know that we have a real estate license, so maybe they'll be a little bit more reassured with us. And so yeah, maybe that holds some truth. Test it out. Do some advertisements with a license number. Do some advertisements without a license number. See what works better. See what gets you a better response. That's kind of the key with with advertising, is constantly testing this, finding out what works better, what is best, and then running with what works. So maybe the license number is a good thing, especially since it's not a requirement, and because it's not a requirement, most real estate licensees don't include their license number, but who knows, maybe that's a gold mine waiting to be found. So definitely test that out. If any of you guys have tested that out, I'd love to hear about that. Drop that in the comments. I love getting the feedback on this type of stuff as well. But again, to stay compliant, you don't have to include the license number, but you do have to include your last name. And this is the reason why you don't have to put your license number in there. So you could advertise just your, if you were to advertise just your first and last name, let's say you're just advertising your first name. If we put out an ad that just says call John, if you wanted to see, you see Johns at ABC Realty, but how many Johns work at ABC Realty? How many Johns are there out there with a real estate license? Probably quite a few. But now let's say that we include our last name. Now, if you're like me and you've got a last name like Carissimo, there's not many people that have that last name, so it should be pretty easy to find those licenses. But even if you do have a more common last name, we're at least narrowing this down to a certain set of Johns, and not every single John in the state of Florida that has a real estate license. The whole purpose here is, if you're including your name in an advertisement, that you include your last name so that the general public is able to go onto the DBPR's website and navigate through a bunch of pages to get to the search page and type in the name of this person, the first and last name of this person, and then find out if they really do have a real estate license. Maybe see if they have any complaints against the real estate license and whatever details it is that they could find with that. But for that reason, you don't have to include your license number, but you do have to include your last name whenever you're advertising. And what that means is, let's say we're advertising our business card. So on our business card, you might have a business card look something like this. You've got a little headshot of yourself here, maybe a full body shot, I guess we're doing in this one here. You've got your, let's say, first name. We'll go with a real generic business card. So we've got our first name, last name. We've got, to make this compliant, and we probably want to put our name in the advertisement, so we'll put that right up there. And maybe we'll put down here ABC Realty. And really, we don't even have to include our name here. We just have to put ABC Realty. That's the only requirement here, so this isn't a blind advertisement. But we'll probably also want to put our phone number. We're going to put in that 813-928-0106. So we put our phone number that's in there. Now, to make this a less misleading advertisement, because you might look at this and say, wow, this is a pretty clear, good, consistent advertisement. But when we put this phone number here, there's that question that comes up. And this is kind of where we get into this gray area here, where it kind of matters for the interpretation based on the scenario as to whether or not this is potentially misleading or not. If we want to have the most accurate and the least misleading advertisement, what we should do is specify what type of phone number this is. So maybe that's our cell number. Now, if we didn't put that there, this isn't that misleading because we put the phone number right under our name. But if that's the office phone number right under our name, maybe a little bit misleading. And again, this is something that might show up on your real estate exam if you're studying for your exam with this. Not only do they want to see the association of where it is that they're putting this phone number, where it's adjacent to. So being that we're adjacent to our first and last name up here, that would lead the public to believe that, okay, this is this is their personal phone number. But to make it less misleading, we just put in cell number, or we put office number. And we'll say the office number is 727-777-4547. Another Tampa School real estate number for our brand new Palm Harbor location. But yeah, so we would advertise here office number for this, and now we're clear about whose number is. And this looks like a pretty standard business card. We're checking off our boxes. We've got our first name and our last name, so we've got the full name since we decided to include our name. We've got the name of the brokerage. Now, there's no requirement. We don't have to put in the office's phone number. So if we don't want to include the office's phone number, we don't have to. We don't even have to include our phone number if we don't want to, but you probably want to put your phone number in your business card if you want to get calls. So that's not a legal requirement to be compliant, but it is a common sense requirement for your advertising. Put your phone number in there. Don't be worried about, people getting your phone number and wanting to call you. You want people to call you. That's how you get business. So put your phone number in there. If you're really skeptical about it, go spend the extra $20-$30 a month to add another line to your account. Get a separate phone number just for business. There you go. You've got your personal phone. You've got your business phone. When that business phone rings, that's money ringing there. So that's another little tip for you. Or get some app. Get like Google Voice or something like that. It's so easy to get a second phone number now. You should definitely have one. I've got more phone numbers than I know what to do with. But this is a pretty standard business card that we're doing here. But let's say that we're going to get, Mad Men, the show that they do the business card. I've never watched it. I've only heard about the show. But I heard that there's, the business card competition that they have, or something about having a nice looking business card. And as a disclaimer here, designing your business card should not be your priority. Your number one priority all the time is finding business. Even if you've got the world's ugliest business card, putting that ugly business card in somebody's hand is going to serve you much better than designing a beautiful business card and not giving it to anyone. So just get yourself a cheap, ugly-looking business card and maybe somewhat decent-looking, but don't get hung up on the design of it. But let's say, you've hired somebody to design a card because you've got real estate business coming in, and you could pay somebody $50 to design a business card for you, or $5 or $10 if you're doing it online with some freelancer. So you get a nice little headshot of yourself here. And you've got it all with the cutout background. So there you are. And you've got Call John. Now, if I were to run an ad like this, if I would have a business card, or maybe this is a cup, maybe this is a pen, this is somewhere that we're sticking this real estate advertisement like that, I'd be breaking the rules because I don't include my last name. But what I can do is call John, and then maybe down here I put John Carissimo, realtor, or something, I don't know, something along the lines, just so you know that's who the John is that we're talking about. But now I've got my name included in there. And this is probably a little bit more advanced than what you might see on the exam, but this is good for the real world to keep yourself compliant. But now you've got maybe a business card, or maybe this is a billboard, maybe this is a Facebook ad, maybe this is whatever type of ad, wherever it is that you're doing this. Again, pens, postcards, these are all advertisements. Now, I am still missing something here. Something very crucial. Rule number 1, the name of the brokerage. This is a blind advertisement. Even though we're not advertising property for sale, we have to always include our brokerage name in here. So maybe we put in little fine print at the bottom, ABC Realty. And you'll see this all the time for the big advertisers, the real estate agents that advertise a lot, especially when they're just a sales associate or a broker associate at another brokerage. I mean, you're literally running a business within a brokerage, within another business, your business within a business. Now, your broker might not like that you make their name of their brokerage of ABC Realty. The broker of ABC Realty might not like that you make that so small in your business cards or in whatever advertisement it is that you're doing. But you're not breaking any laws here. All you do is have to include this in the advertisement. It does have to be legible, so make sure it's not so small that you can't read it, because, maybe then you get yourself in trouble. And if you've got to pull out a magnifying glass to show where it says the name of the brokerage, if you've got like the little micro printing in there, that's probably not going to be okay. That's probably where you'll get in trouble for something like that. But as long as it's legible, as long as it's in there somewhere, as mentions it, part of the fine print, just not too fine where it's still legible, all we have to do is include the name of the brokerage. Now, your particular broker might have some requirements that you include their logo in there. Some of the bigger name brokerages that have these big names, Coldwell Banker, for example. Coldwell Banker is really great for this, and this is how they established such a large name. Same thing with like Remax and Century 21, and these big companies that are top of mind when you think of real estate. And the reason why they are is because their name, their logo is looking a certain way, and it's everywhere. Because a lot of these companies, don't quote me on any of the specifics with any of those because I'm not up to date on their current policies, but usually they're requiring you to also include their logo along with the name of the brokerage, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I mean, personally, I'd rather have the focus on call John, and also, probably put the phone number in here as well, since we are calling. Again, that's not required, but especially if we're putting call John, we probably want the phone number in there. But I would want that to be the focus rather than ABC Realty. But again, there's another school of thought, and I recommend you test to see what works. This would make it legally compliant just having that in there, but maybe you are with one of these big name companies that are recognizable brands, and that brand has some value to it. So you might want to include that logo in there to say, hey, look, I'm part of Remax or Coldwell Banker or Century 21 or whoever it is that you're part of, to kind of show that, oh yeah, I'm part of, one of the biggest companies in the world for real estate. So there's that aspect of it as well. I mean, test how it works. If you're working with a small brokerage that's a name that no one really knows, then you don't necessarily, I wouldn't think it would be a good idea maybe to include that in there. I mean, I don't think it would help you much as it would with a big name company where there is some sort of well-known name. But again, you might also be like me and you might want to make you the focus of the advertisement, especially if you're paying for the advertisement. That's not really dealing with the compliancy as much as it is, because I told you we talk about some good strategies for running ads as well, whatever this ad may be. If you're doing an ad on Facebook or online somewhere like this, all this little text in the image is usually bad. Facebook usually won't even approve those in the first place, and if they do, they're usually going to get really low traffic because they're not going to show this a lot because they don't like the pictures that have all like the text in there that's trying to get around like their little spam filters and things like that. But we've got some more stuff to talk about to remain legally compliant, and we've got one more rule that's a specific rule from the Florida Real Estate Commission that we're going to talk about. But first, we're going to take a quick commercial break, so stick with us. I'm John Carissimo. You're watching Ask the Instructor.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com. Does your current career allow for unlimited income potential? With a career in real estate, the sky is the limit. What you put in is what you get out. Find out more about how you can tap into the unlimited income potential of a career in real estate at tampaschool.com.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
Ask the Instructor. Every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time. I'm John Carismo. You're watching Ask the Instructor. Hey, welcome back to this week's episode of Ask the Instructor. I'm John Carismo, and the show is brought to you by the Tampa School of Real Estate. Every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time, we come to you live to talk about the technical side of the real estate industry. And today, we're really combining the real world with the theoretical, with the stuff you might see on the exam and the stuff it is that you've got to know anytime it is that you do an advertisement. And advertising is a big part of real estate, getting your name out there so you get clients attracted to you. We've got Mark. If you guys are looking to buy or sell a house in the Tampa Bay area, give Mark a call. He's commented on YouTube. I've known Mark for a while now, and he's going to do big things with his real estate license. Recently licensed, but he'll treat you good. Thanks always for tuning in, Mark. Just want to give you that little shout out there, and thanks for correcting on the name, the Jon. But really, that's my fault that people might spell John rather than Jon. That tells me that I haven't done a good enough job of getting Jon out there, and instead John is what might arise when people think of a John. So that same concept really proves the importance of advertising, of why you need to constantly be getting your name out there. Because people will forget who you are. They'll forget how to spell your name. They'll forget that you have a real estate license. They'll forget that you're the real estate specialist. You have to keep reminding them. And, there's so many times, myself included, I've been in this scenario before where I've met somebody, whether this is a friend, a family member even, or maybe distant family member, but even with people that I'm somehow related to, that know that I'm in real estate, or a close friend even, that goes and uses somebody else to buy or sell a home. And I could sit here and cry about it and say, oh man, they're a terrible friend, they're probably not even really related to me, and boo-hoo, wah-wah, and cry about this, but it's my own fault. It's your own fault if you're not constantly reminding them, hey, I'm your guy or I'm your girl for real estate. It's your job. That's really, right up there. Number one on the list is closing deals, is getting prospects in your pipeline for closing deals. But right there, number two is reminding people constantly, the people it is that you meet, the leads, the prospects, your friends, your family, all of their friends and family, that you're the real estate guy, that you're the real estate girl, that you know everything there is to know about real estate. And you kind of have to walk the walk to be able to talk the talk. So that's why you should kind of read up on these things. Watch some of our Ask the Instructor episodes. I guarantee you'll learn some things on those. We've got all those episodes, speaking of which, at tampaschool.com/success. And you'll see us mention those. You'll see us with this little bar flashing at the bottom. And so, speaking of the Tampa School of Real Estate, because we do a lot of advertising, we do Ask the Instructor every Wednesday for a few different reasons. Number one, to help our students understand real estate. Because, you learn a lot in the course, but there's so much more to learn. And, we're on a mission to help make everyone it is that we encounter just a little bit more successful in real estate, whether we're helping them start their real estate career, complete their post-licensing, or continue education. That's our goal. And even if they don't take a course with us, we still want them to be a little bit more successful, because we want you, when you think of real estate and real estate knowledge and real estate education, to think of Tampa School of Real Estate. That's part of the reason why we do these shows. They're a lot of work. They cost a lot of money to do these shows. This whole studio, that was a major investment that we made here. But we do that because we want to be the hub for real estate knowledge. And you should be the hub for real estate knowledge amongst your sphere of influence, amongst your leads, amongst your prospects. You want to try to accomplish that same thing. And you want to show up every day. I mean, that's why we do 2 shows a week here. So that way we don't just do one video and hope that 10 years later that one video that we did is going to help you remember that we're the real estate education people. No, you want to be constantly, and look, it doesn't even have to be something that's perfect. It doesn't have to be, you could literally just start out with just doing a selfie video. And honestly, for a more personalized business like real estate sales, a little video of you talking, or even having them on your Facebook when you're constantly telling some sort of real estate story, talking about real estate. This is all ways to keep reminding the public that, hey, you've got a real estate license, and not only that, but you're the most knowledgeable real estate agent out there. There's a lot of people with real estate licenses. You just got to differentiate yourself. You just got to make yourself stand out, and part of that is really just making sure that they don't forget that you told them you have a real estate license, that you're in the real estate business, that you're a realtor, whatever it is. But let me get off that soapbox for a minute here. That's super important for you for real estate, which is why I did want to spend a moment on that. Number 1, finding and closing deals. Number 2, making sure every single person in your farm area, in your market, knows that you're the real estate professional. So that's super important, especially if you're a long-term success in real estate, so deals just start coming to you and you no longer have to be out there finding them, because the better it is that you get at that second category here, making sure everyone knows you're in real estate, now you just get business coming to you without even asking for it. They just show up, hey, I want to buy a house. Great, cool. I remember back in the day where I had to go, chasing after people. Now you look at you, you're coming to me. But that's what happens when you establish your presence. So advertising is crucial. Advertising is essential. Doing it legal is also essential as well, because not only can it land you in jail, maybe on the more minor side, you might just lose your real estate license, and all that advertising is for nothing if you no longer have a real estate license, or you might just get fined, which increases the cost of your advertising. That's one way to look at it. But let's get back to the theoretical side of this. I want to talk about one other requirement. And this is another specific requirement that you want to remember, not only for your exam, but in the real world. And now, this is one that doesn't apply to everyone. This applies to everyone. For every advertisement you have to do, you always have to include the name of your brokerage. You don't always have to include your name. If you were to ask me, should I include my name in the advertisement? The answer is yes, absolutely. Don't run an ad where you're paying for the ad if you're not including your name in it. So if you do include your name, to be compliant, make sure you include your last name. And then number 3, and really these rules are pretty simple. The stuff we were talking about at the beginning with the misrepresentation versus puffing, that's where this is a little bit more complex. It's a little bit more up for interpretation. These are very clear, very strict, very specific rules that they have. And this third rule regards nicknames. So if you have some sort of nickname, if you have a name that's not your real legal name that you're going by, let's say in that maybe you want to have this persona in your real estate and you want to go by John the real estate guy. It sounds cheesy, but going by that name is definitely going to make sure people remember, oh yeah, that's the real estate guy, like Bill Nye, the science guy. You know that he's the science guy because he calls himself Bill Nye, the science guy. I could call myself John the real estate guy, but if I were to do that, if I were to use a nickname like that, so we've already got to include our name in the advertisement. So we'd have to put our name, John Carissimo, and the reason why I left this space here is I have to now put in parentheses where my middle name should be, the real estate guy, Carissimo. So John, the real estate guy, Carissimo. That makes me calling myself John, the real estate guy, legally compliant. Now, you want to be careful here because you're not allowed to use a trade name in real estate. So what that means is if you do decide to incorporate yourself, which again, remember, you're a business within a business, so yes, you can incorporate yourself, and yes, you should incorporate yourself once you start making money. Don't worry about doing an incorporation if you haven't closed any deals yet. The only benefit you really have for that is tax advantages, and you only have to worry about tax advantages if you're making any money. So go make some money, then worry about the taxes, file your LLC or incorporation or whatever it is that you're going to do. But now if I were to incorporate myself, I would just be able to use, my first name, my last name, exactly how this appears on my license, followed by LLC, followed by NC, followed by PA, or whatever it is that you're going to incorporate yourself as. You can't use a trade name in your real estate corporation. So that's not really advertising, but it does tie into this if you're using a nickname like this when you're advertised. So you call yourself John the Real Estate Guy, but remember, if you're doing something like that, your nickname has to go in quotations here in the middle. And now, let's talk about this. Let's say if your name is Mike Jones, or at least that's what you go by is Mike Jones, but your real name is Michael Jones. Now, if we want to go by interpreting the law being very specific and very strict, your advertisement should be Michael Jones. But if you want to say Mike Jones, what you should do, according to the very strict rules, is Michael, and then Mike in quotations, and Jones. Now, even though Mike is a common nickname for Michael, it's still that. It's still a nickname. It's still not your legal name. Now, there's much worse offenses going on right now with advertising than you calling yourself Mike instead of your legal name Michael in your advertisement. But if you were to ask the Florida Real Estate Commission, and if the Florida Real Estate Commission is watching this right now, please give me a straight answer on this as if it is okay. Because as far as I know, they don't have any official rules saying that you could just call yourself Mike Jones and that's all okay. This isn't the real estate instructor in me. Remember, I'm not giving any legal advice. Consult your attorney for legal advice. If you're going to put out Mike Jones, I don't think you're going to get in trouble. Let me know if you do get in trouble for something like that. I'm not telling you to do that. That's your own choice if you decide to advertise something like that. But you should be able to do something like that. Advertise, say, Mike Jones instead of Michael Jones. But again, if you want to follow the strict particulars on this, if you were to, let's say, see this on your exam, even something like that, I would say, yeah, Mike has to go in the quotations where your middle name should be. So Michael, Mike Jones. And that's the specific of the actual law. It says if you have a nickname, it's not clear in the statutes of what they define actually as a nickname, but depending on who you ask, yeah, Mike is a nickname of Michael. Almost anyone you ask would say, yeah, Mike is a nickname of Michael. So again, even though it's a common name, that's if you want to go by the book, make sure you're accurate and legal. Now, what you can do, if you want to still make sure that you're 110% legally compliant, while still being able to just have Mike, be the center point of this here, is you could do, again, yeah, call Mike in your ad. And then in your little fine print, you've got Michael. Mike Jones. And then also remember to make sure it's not a blind advertisement, ABC Realty. So yeah, that's the official rules regarding if you use a nickname. Now, if you're using a nickname like Mike the Real Estate Guy, that's where, yeah, definitely that's a nickname, no question about it. That has to go in quotations in the middle. And again, if we want to take the strict interpretation of the law, even your Mike instead of Michael, go in quotations. Again, Freck, if you're out there listening to me right now, give me a direct answer. Give me a straight answer on this because I've been yet to find one on something like this. But it's. You're free. I'm just here. I'm just the messenger, just to tell you what it is legally compliant. I'm not telling you should break the law. You should not break the law. I'm just here to tell you this is what the law is. This is what you need to know on your exam, and also what you need to do to make sure that you don't get at the very least fined for your advertisements that you're doing, or worst case scenario, ending up in jail for the advertisements. This, I don't think you're going to go to jail. Again, I'm not offering legal advice, but you're not going to go to jail for, I don't think you're going to go to jail for something like this here. Let me know if otherwise, but, you don't usually see that, what are you in for? I didn't put my nickname in my real estate advertisement. Oh yeah, I killed somebody. So that's you don't usually see those two people in the same room, at least not in the movies and whatnot. But that's the only representation I have of jails and whatnot. But that's our legal requirements. So just to kind of recap some of the stuff it is that we talked about. And the stuff you're more likely to get in trouble for is the misrepresentations. That's where they're very strict. If you're misrepresenting information and you know that you're misrepresenting information, that's where you're very likely to get in trouble. If you're practicing real estate by advertising real estate without a real estate license, very likely to get in trouble with that. That's a very strict rule. Some of the more particular rules, these are maybe things you might get fined more so for, is if you're not including the name of the brokerage in your advertisement, that would make that a blind advertisement. If you're not including your last name in the advertisement, whenever it is that you're including your name in there. And also that third category that we talked about including a nickname. So if you're using a nickname, again, that has to go in quotations. These guys right here, not parentheses, the quotations, where your middle name would normally be. And that's basically advertising. That's really how to keep yourself legally compliant. Now, again, the stuff that's up for interpretation is the stuff that you want to be careful about, making sure that your advertisements are not misleading in any way. But remember that boasting, puffing, the exaggeration, as long as it's still, it's still based in the truth, still based in the reality, calling something spacious when it's not really quite that spacious, that's puffing. Unless we have a specific definition of what spacious exactly refers to, that would be puffing, and you're not necessarily going to get in trouble for something like that. So puffing is okay, misrepresentation absolutely not okay. And that difference is if we know that we're lying about something, if we know something is not true. And that even goes kind of into to say with spacious. And it wouldn't make sense to advertise something as spacious when it's not spacious whatsoever. Because not only is that, that's in a gray area for whether or not this is misrepresentation, whether or not that's something that's illegal, but that's something that's going to result in the public not trusting you. So whenever in doubt, try to be as accurate as possible. There's great ways to kind of make things sound good, even if they're accurate. There's some funny things that you see in where it's realtor speak for problems with houses, and they say, oh, great opportunity that lies here. You're dealing with a fixer-upper, but, we made it sound great. There's a great opportunity here. It's a fixer-upper. Just needs a little bit of work. There we go. So those are all things that are puffing, because maybe it needs a little work, maybe it needs a lot of work. There's no definition exactly of what a little work is. So just be careful with your puffing to make sure you're still kind of staying somewhat accurate with this here, and so you're not basically misrepresenting the information, but as long as, again, there's some basis in the reality here, that's puffing. And again, you want to just make sure that, and the stuff that it seems wrong, it probably is, like the misrepresentation. If we're saying, it's an immaculate, perfect house, if we're saying it's immaculate, if we're saying it's perfect, we're basically saying there's nothing wrong with that. So that might seem like an honest, okay statement, that it's immaculate, that it's perfect, but maybe there's one small thing. That's maybe not where we have a misrepresentation rather than just puffing. Still probably not something that's going to get you in trouble, but just think about the advertisements it is that you're running. Consult your broker, because your broker is supposed to be that filter that has the final say on any of the advertisements it is that you're running. So whenever it is that you're in doubt, because remember, your broker is also at stake whenever you run any sort of advertisement. So whenever it is that you're in doubt, consult your broker. And also take advantage. If you're a member of the Florida Association of Realtors, there's that great legal hotline that you could call into. As long as you're a member, you can call up and ask them basic legal questions. They don't represent you, but they could answer your legal questions for you, give you an idea of what the law specifically says from an attorney's point of view, an actual attorney that works for the Association of Realtors. So that's staying yourself legally compliant. Again, if I want to leave you with anything, when in doubt, consult your broker. Get a good broker that knows what they're doing, that can help you be successful, and then use that to ask them the questions, and if they really want you to be successful, they'll be more than willing to help. But that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. I see Jim over on Facebook, correcting that to Jon. So that's me going out here on a limb, getting that out there, getting that information out there. I've learned over all these years, ever since I was yay big, of just dealing with the fact that people are going to put H's in my name. I've learned to accept that when I get a Starbucks cup that says John instead of Jon. But when I see that, that's telling me, especially in the real estate space, that I'm not advertising enough, that, 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 and if you see that as well, where people don't know your name, that's a red flag to you that you need to advertise more, that you need to make sure that they don't forget that you're in the real estate business, because that's where you'll see that they went and bought a house with somebody else or sold their house with somebody else, and you're going to be kicking yourself and really crying and saying, oh man, they should have used me, they must not like me. No, it's not that they don't like you, they probably just forgot that you have a real estate license and you weren't convincing enough that you know what you say you know about real estate. So keep that in mind. Advertising is so important, so essential, so crucial in the real estate space. Still second to finding and closing deals, because that's what we get paid for, not necessarily the advertising. The advertising is for building our long-term business, but it's definitely a big part of real estate, and it's exciting, it's fun. You get to be creative, you get to find out what works good and kind of develop your formula for, oh, if I advertise this way and I say these particular things, this makes me lots of money with this ad because it gets me lots of leads. That's fun. It's fun to kind of find something that works and be able to replicate that and scale that larger. But that's real estate advertising. Hopefully you've enjoyed today's show. Hopefully you've learned some things, and hopefully you're not going to get yourself in trouble for advertising now. And if you guys do have any questions after you're watching this, drop those in the comments, because we do go back to the comments even after the show is finished going live here, and we go back and try to answer any of those on there. If you want to rewatch today's episode or any of our previous episodes of Ask the Instructor, not State of Real Estate, that's Friday. Tune in on Friday for State of Real Estate so we can talk about growing your business. But we've done, I can't even count how many episodes of Ask the Instructor. We've been doing this over a year now, every week. So there's at least 60 episodes of Ask the Instructor. I think we're even past that. And these are hour-long episodes talking about this technical stuff, solving math problems, learning about what makes things work in the real estate world. That's all on our Success Center, tampaschool.com/success. And then also don't forget to check out State of Real Estate. That's on Fridays. We're going to be live this Friday, 12 noon, to talk about growing your real estate business. It's a little bit of a mastermind session. I have a lot of fun with that one too, because I love seeing people grow their real estate business and helping people grow their business, real estate or otherwise. And we've got a lot of episodes of those also at our Success Center. Maybe you've got some more specific questions about starting your real estate career, give us a call. That phone number is right below. It's 813-928-0106. Again, 813-928-0106. We've got advisors standing by to answer any questions you have and assist you in any way it is that they can. Also, check out our website, tampaschool.com, and you'll find all kinds of info on there. But until next week, really until Friday for State of Real Estate, you guys go out there, go advertise something, and do it legally. I'll see you Friday.
Do you want to incorporate studying for your real estate exams into your busy schedule? Now you can review the key topics you need to know to pass your class and state exams with our MP3 audio review. Simply pop in your headphones or connect to your car to reinforce crucial information while you exercise or drive. Listen to the first unit for free at mp3audioreview.com. That's mp3audioreview.com. Does your current career allow for unlimited income potential? With a career in real estate, the sky is the limit. What you put in is what you get out. Find out more about how you can tap into the unlimited income potential of a career in real estate at tampaschool.com.
Hey, if you're enjoying the show today, which I'm sure you are, be sure to hit like, subscribe, post your comments, share with your friends and family. Thank you guys so much for watching.
You are watching
Ask the Instructor. Every Wednesday at 12 noon Eastern Time. I'm John Chrismo.